Tito Ortiz, um dos nomes mais sonantes do MMA. Ex-campeão mundial da categoria dos meio pesados, com um currículo impressionante de vitórias contra atletas como Vanderlei Silva, Ken Shamrock e ainda no ano passado, Chuck Liddell. Vai-nos revelar pormenores do seu treino e alimentação, com excelentes dicas para atletas e ainda contar um pouco das suas batalhas do passado. A sua vida não tem sido fácil, mas este campeão dentro e fora do ringue não tem segredos, a não ser trabalho árduo. Bem-vindo ao podcast dos meus heróis. Tito, thank you so much for doing this, buddy. What's up?
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, man, I see your. Is that your room? You have an oil painting over there?
Yeah, it's actually from one of my fans. He actually drew it for me and sent it to me. So what better place to put it in my room when I won with my world title, and it just makes sure that I always think about where I came from and how I started and what got me here.
So I guess visualization is one of the most important things in your life, right?
Oh, always. You know, I always want to succeed as much as possible, but fail at the same time. That way, so I can learn from those failures and makes me work harder each and every time. So it's just through my career, I've worked so hard to get where I am today. You know, a kid coming from nothing, but I'm successful through hard work and dedication and just being an honest man and working hard, believing in my dreams and never stop trying to achieve those goals.
Man, whenever you talk, it's like my heart starts pounding, man. I want to go and do stuff. I want to go and jog right now. So today is your rest day, right? You're having some rest because you're doing a very intense training camp, right? You got a fight on Saturday?
Yeah, so I got a fight. It'll be on Saturday, December 7th against Alberto Del Rio. I put in a 19-week camp so far, and it's kind of just a tune-down week, tune my body down, but just making sure that I'm able to make the weight on Friday, the day before the event. I got to make 210 pounds. I'm walking around about 225 right now. So 15 pounds is not that much of a weight cut for me. It's pretty easy. I'm normally making 205. But for this time, it's at 210. I want to give Alberto an extra 5 pounds so he didn't have to cut too much. But, I'm normally a light heavyweight. But I've been working really, really hard for this. You know, as you can see the black eye from sparring last week. I've been putting in the work, man, and I'm ready for war.
So, Alberto Rodriguez, El Patron, right? El Patron. I like the name. So he's a former WWE champion, and he's got a record of 9-5 in MMA. So how did this fight come about? When did you decide to come back with this fight?
Well, you know, I think it became right after I fought Chuck Liddell last year. It was pretty much the same date as this week. I finished him in the first round, and I kind of came to a point in my life. It was like, you know, I'm 43 years old, and I still have this hunger to fight again. And I was like, man, what do I do? Would I still compete? So I had to make a phone call to Randy Couture, who is a close friend of mine, a guy who I fought for the light heavyweight title that I lost to. And I asked Randy on the phone, I said, Randy, you know, when you were 43, what made you come back and win the heavyweight world title in the UFC? And he's all, Tito, I didn't feel like I was done yet. And I feel like I had a lot more to do. And let me tell you, that's all I needed to hear from him. You know, I just sat down. I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to go 100% full forward. You know, I brought my family down to the living room, and I said, boys, and my girlfriend, I said, I want to continue to fight. And they said, we support you. Let's get this. And I just had that goal set in my mind, and I wanted to compete. I reached out to Bellator and, you know, a couple other organizations. And Combate America had an interview with me, and they asked me, you know, if I'd be interested in fighting for him. I said, yes, of course, but what opponent would you have for me to compete against? And well, actually, we have a guy that says he wants to fight you. I go, really? I go, who's this person? He's like, Alberto Del Rio. And I was like, wait a second. Alberto Del Rio from the WWF? or the WWE, excuse me. And he's yes, Alberto Del Rio from the WWE. I go, he fought in Pride, and he has a mixed martial record of 9-5. He goes, how you know about him? I go, I watched him. I remember when he won the heavyweight world title in the WWE. But he's a Greco-Roman wrestler, which is a collegiate wrestler, and he's fought mixed martial arts before, but he got into the WWE and became the world champion. I was like, this fight makes sense. Let's do it. And so the fight was signed by July, and July 6th, I started my camp, and I haven't stopped since.
Wow, man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Are you still a huge fan? Do you watch every fighter? Is it like, no, I don't want to. When you're off, I mean, obviously since last year you came back, but when it's downtime, when you're not fighting, or when you don't have a prospect of fighting, do you still log on to every fight? Are you still a hardcore fan, or just like, I want to chill and be with my kids?
A lot of times I want to chill and be with my kids, but there is times that I want to see some of the big fights. We'll order pay-per-view, or we'll even go to the events, but it's mostly the bigger fights. I've always been a huge fan of the sport in general, since back in 1993 when UFC first began. Yeah. And becoming a fighter in 1997, it was just, I was hooked, man. I was something that I loved and showed with the hard work and dedication that I was able to achieve, and becoming a world champion. And, it's been 22 years I've been competing. But I still feel young. I feel good. I feel strong, fast. I feel as good as I did when I was the light heavyweight champion for UFC. I just, my body's right. My mind's right. I'm healthy. No more injuries. I've had surgeries that I've been able to recover from. And, like I say, man, I feel strong. I'm fast. And this training stuff is fun again. It's fun to compete. It's fun to train. And I love it.
So how's a typical day right now? Let's focus on the right now, the preparation part. This is very interesting even for our audience, because they really want to know the performance aspect and what you guys go through. So for example, let's start with today even. So how is your typical day off? Do you have any sort of active recovery, or is it just like lay down, like walk to the mall and come back? What do you do?
Well, today I got to wake up around about 11 o'clock in the afternoon, so I got to sleep in. I got about 11 hours of sleep from last night.
Wow.
And like I said, a recovery day. I'm pretty thankful with technology these days, because I guess I can kind of show you guys.
Yeah, sure, man. Go ahead.
We have this right here. Let's see if you can see it. I'll bring you up to it.
Yeah, sure.
This right here, it's a hyperbaric chamber.
Oh, wow.
So I have a hyperbaric chamber in my room, and
wow.
I use that for 1.5 hour sessions. So that's a hyperbaric chamber. So pretty much what that uses. Oops, hold on 1 second.
Oh, okay. I thought you were sleeping in the hyperbaric chamber already.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
It's okay,
like
man.
I say, that's an altitude simulation, or excuse me, hyperbaric chamber. And on my days off, I do that for about 1.5 hours. So what that does is reproduces the red blood cells in my body by compressing the red blood cells and producing white blood cells, and it's for recovery, and that's what I use.
Do you feel kind of woozy after you use the hyperbaric chamber, or do you have any fogginess of the brain when you're trying to think?
Well, I think you do feel a little lightheaded after using it. But you get clarity. I think clarity is the key word here that I'm using after, because you are compressing the red blood cells and producing white blood cells for recovery of your body. It takes out the lactic acids out of your muscles, so you don't have any swelling, any inflammation in your muscles. It takes it out completely. And this is only one of the things I use. Now, Monday through Friday, I actually use a machine called CVAC. And it's a altitude simulation machine. So it simulates altitude. I go up to 25,000 feet, and it drops down to 1,000 in about 3 or 4 seconds. And then it goes back up to 25,000, and then it simulates altitude back and forth for 20-minute sessions. And I do up to 4 sessions a day, Monday through Friday. So I'm reproducing red blood cells. And then on the weekends, I'm using the hyperbaric chamber, which is compressing all those red blood cells to reproduce white blood cells. So I'm getting double recovery. So I don't have to do the ice bath or any type of ice like that, which helps. And I hate ice, so it helps a lot.
Oh, yeah, me too. I know that there was this one incident in your life, or this one fight, where you felt like the cardio machine was not up to par, maybe at round 3 or 4. So yeah, I heard you said that never again that would be a problem. So I guess the cardio for you is like basics. It's got to be done, right?
100%. I've learned that from Frank Shamrock. When I fought Frank Shamrock back in 1999, I lost him at the end of the fourth round, about 10 seconds left of the fourth round. And I threw everything at him besides the kitchen sink. Actually, I think I threw the kitchen sink at him too. And, but he just out-cardioed me. I did everything possible, and I was exhausted. And they say if you can't beat him, join him. He retired, so I went up to his camp up north from California, and I trained with him for about a month. And I learned that he used a heart rate monitor around his chest, and I learned the way he recovered as fast as possible. How fast can you recover in a minute? And I kind of added that to my camp, added that to my training sessions, and I've learned that. And over the last 22 years, I think that's what's kept me young and be able to fight and compete at my level is I've always taken care of my body. I'm not a big party guy. I don't go out and party all the time. My kids keep me grounded, but at the same time, I take care of my body. I eat healthy. I eat clean. I sleep a lot. When training camp is happening, I sleep anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day because I'm training, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. So I got to recover, and recovery is huge. But, when they talk about beauty sleep, it's true. You're able to sleep a lot. You're able to let your body regenerate, and I let my body do that.
So how's a typical day for you when you're in this training camp? At what time do you wake up? How many sessions a day do you do?
So my typical day, let's start with the Monday. Monday I get up around about 11 o'clock. I'll go down and I have a shake, a protein shake with a little bit of carbs, and I'll go do my bike ride. I do 9 miles to the pier, and then there's 2 flights of stairs. I'll run the stairs 30 times, and then I'll hop on my bike and ride back 9 miles, and it takes me about 51 minutes. I'll have another protein shake when I get home. I'll go to the CVAC. It's called Ascent Adaptation in Newport Beach, California. I use a machine called CVAC.
Yeah, the CVAC,
simulation machine.
Yeah.
I'll use that for 3 sessions. So I'm there about an hour and a half. I'll come have a little small meal, and then I'll go straight to my boxing, which will do mitt work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and then Thursday and Friday we spar. But I'll do that for about an hour and a half. I'll come back home. I'll have another small meal, and then I go back and do my jiu-jitsu and wrestling for about an hour, which is Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We go live. We drill on Tuesday, Thursdays, and then I come back, have another small meal. Then I go back to the gym around 10 p.m. and I do all my weight circuit training, and that is pretty much just high reps, 20 reps of 20. I'll do 5 sets, and I'll focus on one body part at each day. So one day I'll do shoulders, another day I'll do biceps or do arms, another day I'll do chest, another day I'll do back, and then another day I'll do legs, and I'll just cycle that through the week, and I'll train 6 days a week on my weight training. But it's only for 1 hour. I try to push myself each and every set, each rep as fast and hard as possible, just to make sure I have the endurance and the strength at the same time. I want to finish my last set as I did my first one.
What an incredible training volume. Yeah, so you mentioned the shakes. Obviously, you do some supplementation and you worry about your foods. What's a typical meal, for example, a typical lunch or a typical dinner for you?
Well, I'm a big fisherman. I fish a lot. I'm actually a quarter Portuguese, so I think being a fisherman is always something I love. But I go out and I catch my own fish. I catch my bluefin.
That's why you're tough. That's why you're tough. I knew it. You're a quarter Portuguese, of course. You showed me the graph. It was like 26%. So it's a little bit more than a quarter, right? Am I right?
Yeah, a little bit more than a quarter. But
yeah, everybody go check. Go check his Instagram because it's there. It's there. You posted like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, you're a quarter Portuguese, man. I'm so proud. Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes me tough. I think that's what makes me generate.
Of course.
My body's so quick and what keeps me young. I'm 44 years young right now, and I feel like that. I feel like I'm in my 30s. But from my mom's side, my grandmother, my mother's side, she's from Portugal. But
really?
We got Portuguese blood in me. Yes, so I'm
nice.
I'm very, very fortunate. But I'm American. I was born here in America. I was born here in Huntington Beach, California.
Yeah.
But a food intake pretty much as me is I have steak a couple times a week, but mostly fish, chicken, carbohydrates. I'll eat like probably at lunchtime to middle of lunch, and nothing during dinner. I try to do mostly greens and proteins for dinner. and that's just to keep my weight down. You know, I don't want to get too big and too bulky, so I want to kind of keep the swimmer's body where I'm lean, fast, and in shape. But my problem is I don't eat enough. I need to eat a lot, and I really don't. You know, my girlfriend kind of makes sure that I do eat. She's all, "Have you eaten today?" I'm like, "Yes, I have. I had a small meal," but you know, I do a lot of supplement intake with First Form that they give me all my protein. So it's kind of like a protein shake. I use egg whites to mix with the protein shake just for the flavor and to add extra protein. I use a lot of greens from formula First Form. They have a green supplement that I add to my drink. So that's probably about 3 times a day I have that. Then there's another company by the name of Vitagro, and it's a carbohydrate that I use pre-workout.
Oh,
and it's
that's
not
great.
Pre-workout, it's caffeine. So I do not intake any caffeine at all through my whole camps. You know, a Sunday, I'll get to have a coffee. But once again, caffeine will dehydrate the muscles. Caffeine will cramp the muscles and get you dehydrated in general. And, you know, it kind of makes fatiguing a lot quicker because you get a high spike and you get a high drop. With the carbohydrates that I'm intaking, it is a barley carb. So it's a big difference between a complex carb that my body feeds. So it burns a lot cleaner with the barley carb that I got from Vitagro. So kind of adding these things mixture together is just kind of having the, you know, the right recipe to be able to train as much as I do.
Let's talk about your upbringing. I know you had some difficulties growing up, obviously, and you had to struggle because you had to make some choices, right? So you started very early on with high school wrestling. How did this whole combat sport begin with you? It was high school wrestling, right?
Yeah, well, it started in high school wrestling. The combative athleticism that I learned was in high school. And, you know, as a kid growing up, I was really a big fan, still am to this day, a big fan of WWF, which is WWE now. And I always wanted to be a professional wrestler. You know, when I got into high school, I walked in the wrestling room at Huntington High and I was like, where's the ring at? And the coach is like, no, this is a totally different sport. This is not what it is. This is real wrestling. This is Olympic wrestling. And I was like, all right, you can still slam a guy in his head. He's like, wow, actually, if you slam a guy in his head, you can get points for this. So I was like, oh, I got to try it. I like it. And I stuck to it. I got on varsity my first year and I graduated high school, ended up going to junior college, won the state twice in junior college. And while I was in junior college, I competed for the first time in UFC.
Wow, man. So how was the transition from wrestling to actually MMA? I mean, what
the transition from wrestling to MMA was a little hard in the beginning because I had to learn the jiu-jitsu. You know, in wrestling, you're not supposed to be on your back at all. In jiu-jitsu, that's the game's played from your back. And it took me about a good 6 to 7 months to learn that side of it. But then learning the boxing and the kickboxing, and then adding the weight training with the cardio and the sparring. I mean, there's so many attributes that you had to learn, or mixed martial arts you had to learn to compete, that it took a lot of work. But it just took discipline. And I learned the discipline through wrestling. That's what made me a great wrestler, was discipline. And having that through my career, I was very lucky, because when I got into mixed martial arts, it was a little bit easier than college wrestling, because college wrestling was so hard. But I learned so much from it that I took it on, you know, like a duck in water.
Yeah, I saw this great interview. I love Adam Carolla, and I saw you and Chuck Liddell in his show, in Adam Carolla's show, and you were saying something about how in the old, not in the old days, but like 20 years ago or something, or 15 years ago, a lot of the people came from a base. Like you came from wrestling, people came from karate, people came from taekwondo, and then they started to learn other martial arts. So they had a foundation. But nowadays, you got a lot of people that are starting right from the get-go with MMA. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that maybe having just one background is better? You know, that a lot of things on a kid's mind is maybe too much? Or do you feel like starting right away with MMA, would you do anything different?
You know, I think starting with MMA now is just, it's gone through a huge growth in such a quick amount of time. It's a smart thing to do, but having a wrestling base is probably the best thing ever, because of the aggressiveness that wrestling teaches you, the hard work that it teaches you, the dedication that it teaches you, but the takedowns is a big point for the judges to score on. You know, if you're able to smother a person who's a striker, or a guy who's a jiu-jitsu guy, and take them down and hold them down at will, and, you know, learn striking from wrestling, I think it's an advantage to have wrestling on your background, but being a well-rounded athlete of doing jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, all these things together, it makes it a little bit better. I think they have a little advantage than guys who just wrestlers who are trying to add on the jiu-jitsu or add on the kickboxing or boxing. So the kids are lucky now because now they actually do have a sport called mixed martial arts.
I guess in that interview, you talked about your tough upbringing and dealing with some struggles because your parents had a problem with addiction. If you don't mind us talking a little bit about your past or your background, and how eventually what I got to realize is that it was the wrestling coach or the wrestling experience that kind of saved you from going into that realm as well. Am I right?
Yes, 100%. When I was about 6 years old, my father got introduced to heroin from his brother. He had a hernia. He was in the hospital, and they were giving him morphine. And then when he got out of the hospital, he actually still had that addiction because he had a pain. And his brother said, try this. And he tried it, and it was heroin. And he was introduced to it. And he introduced it to my mom, and they got addicted to the drug. And I moved to Santa Ana with them. My 3 older brothers stayed here in Huntington Beach and were guided by a guardian. And we lived from motel to motel in trailer parks, other people's homes. I just seen a lot at a young age, from about 6 to about 13, hung around gangs. But during that time, there was times that I would take the bus from Santa Ana down to Newport Beach and go on the pier and go fishing. So fishing really kept me away from the gangs at the time. But when I was home, I was hanging out with the gangs. I got jumped into a gang that was one of the local gangs in Santa Ana, California, called F Troop. I got jumped in, and I was always hanging out with them, drinking beers, smoking marijuana. It was just, it was normal. And that was, I pretty much learned respect was from the old guys there. It was always have respect for your elders, the veteranos there. And that's how I learned, I learned from them. But one of my friends actually got shot and killed right in front of me. My mom kind of I told her what happened. She says, no. Well, as we pulled up there, he's getting carried away in a body bag. And she told my father, either you get sober or I'm taking Tito away. And about a week and a half later, my mom says, you know what, we're leaving. And what do you mean we're leaving? She's like, we're moving. She ended up having another boyfriend and got married. We moved back to Huntington Beach. She took me away from my father, which was a blessing in disguise, and gave me a second chance at life. And then that's when I got into wrestling at Huntington High School. I stopped hanging out with the gangs. I stopped hanging out with bad people. I kind of realized that the people I associate myself is who I become. And I was hanging out with the wrestlers, and I was working hard. And to wrestle, I had to get good grades. So I had to keep my grades up. And that was super, super important, was keeping my grades up. So it kept me in my books and just trying to learn as much as possible and keep my grades up so I was able to compete. And then when I was about 18, I came to realize that I wanted to be a big man, and I wanted to move out on my own. And, thinking this world was an easy world to live. And I knew everything. And, my shit didn't stink. And I went out on my own, and I worked for an Allied Moving Service, which is a company here in the States. And I was doing drugs with one of my friends, methamphetamine, and it became an addiction. I would work 14-hour shifts, and I would sleep a few hours, party, and next day I'd continue doing this. I did this for about a year and almost a year and a half. I was at a nightclub one night, and an old coach who was at Golden West Junior College, and he was a referee, and he always used to watch me in high school. And he seen me. He's like, Tito, are you doing okay? I go, yeah, I'm doing fine, man. I'm just making ends meet. He goes, man, you don't look so good. What do you mean I don't look so good? I'm fine. Not even realizing how my body looked or what I even looked like, because I was so caught up in the moment, and I had an addiction. And he's like, you ever thought about coming back and going to school and wrestling? I was like, yeah, I would love to come back and wrestle, but I don't have parents to take care of me. I'm just barely making ends meet to pay for my rent, paying for some of my food. And he's like, well, you're Mexican, right? I go, yes. Well, here in the States, if you have a Mexican heritage, you have an opportunity to get a financial aid for scholarship and for school. So he said if I'd come in his office on Monday morning, that he could possibly get me financial aid that would pay for my schooling, pay for my books. and get a stipend for me, which meaning every 3 months I would get a little bit of money to pay for food and so forth. And was that a Sunday morning? I was up all night, Saturday night. Sunday morning, you know, I went to bed about 12 p.m. as soon as the morning was over, and I went to go brush my teeth, and I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize myself. It scared me. I was turning into my parents, and you know, I kind of broke down at that moment. And I have that self-fulfilling, you know, kind of prophecy of going, you know, Tito, what are you doing to yourself? Do you want to become your parents? And it scared me. You know, I broke down. I started crying, and I didn't want that. Monday morning rolls around, and I called my work, and I told them, I said, I'm not gonna be able to come in today. They're like, Tito, if you don't come in today, you're fired. I go, well, I guess I quit. And that was the biggest decision of my life, which is a positive decision. I walked into the coach's office, and he looked at me. He's like, you came in. I'm proud of you. I'm like, I want to change. I don't want to be like my parents. I want to make a difference. And he's like, I think we can do this. I ended up getting financial aid. I got my books paid for, got my units paid for in junior college. And I got a stipend, which was, I think, $1,000 every 3 months. And that helped me out so much. I mean, I was able to put food on the table for me to eat. And I wrestled. I became the state champion that year. And then I was training with Tank Abbott, who's from the UFC at the time, UFC 6 until I believe UFC 20 or I don't know, 15 around there. And I was his training partner, and I told him I wanted to fight. And he laughed at me. He's like, you want to fight in the UFC? I go, yeah, I want to fight. You know, they have a weight class, 199 pounds. You know, I see a guy fighting in it who's the champion right now, Jerry Bolander. And, you know, I remember wrestling him in high school, and I beat him, and I think I'd do well in this. And all of a sudden, UFC 13, May 30th, 1997, I got my first shot, and I fought as an alternate. I fought as an amateur. I fought for free. I'm the only UFC fighter in UFC history to fight for free. I fought for free because I love to compete. And my first match lasted about 22 seconds, referee stoppage. And then from an alternate, I caught myself in the finals against Guy Metzger, who was a seasoned veteran, you know, king of pancrase, ranked in the world. And I was dominating the fight, and they stopped it for bleeding. He was bleeding on the side of his head, and they stopped it, and they stood us back up. They didn't put us back into position. And he hit me with the right hand. I went to go shoot, and he caught me in a choke. And I had to tap, but I learned a lot. And, you know, as a kid, I never had much attention. I really just always was dying from attention from my parents or just having a family in general. I've always just wanted to have a family. And after I came back from that fight, you know, I went to one of my local nightclubs that I would go every once in a while, and I was waiting in line as I normally do. And one of the securities kind of looked around the line. He's like, Tito Ortiz? Oh, yeah. He's like, get up here, man. You don't wait in line. How many people are you with? I'm like, two of my buddies. We got in for free, went to the bar, went to go order a couple drinks, and some guy looked across the bar. He's like, damn, Tito Ortiz, drinks are on me. I never had any attention like this ever in my life. And I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And not only the factor of winning my first fight, but learning the loss of learning not to get submitted ever again, and having the feeling of people cared about me. People, you know, they loved what I did, and I stuck to it. I ended up going back to college, getting my AA degree, going to Cal State Bakersfield on a full ride scholarship, going to get my bachelor's degree. And me and the coach didn't see eye to eye there. We got in a few fights during the wrestling season, and I had to say enough's enough. I couldn't get disrespected by him anymore. And I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to leave. So I ended up going to jail for kicking your ass because you're an asshole to me. And I gave up the rest of my scholarship. Then I walked away. I moved back to Huntington Beach. I got a job that would work graveyard shift, and I would train during the daytime. And I fought UFC, I believe it was UFC 18 and 19, where I fought Jerry Bolander in my return match, and I stopped him in 10 minutes. And then I fought Guy Metzger in a rematch, and I beat him in 14 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I was fighting against Frank Shamrock, the 5-time defending world champion. And I was dominating the fight all the way up to the end of the 4th round. And this goes back to the beginning of my story where I was talking about that I had, you know, I gassed out, and he beat me, and it made me a better man. I went to my work that night, or that week, and the owner pulled me aside. He's like, Tito, man, we need to talk. I go, what do you mean we need to talk? He's like, we need to talk. And he goes, can you come in my office? I go, yeah. Kept in his office. He goes, can you just take a seat? And I go, sure. And I felt like I was in trouble. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I don't think this job's for you, man. I go, what do you mean? I mean, this pays for my apartment. This pays for my food. This pays for my cell phone. I mean, this is what takes care of me, so I'm able to train. He's like, no, calm down. I go, no, really, I need this job. I need the money. He's like, Tito, calm down. Let me explain. He goes, I watched your fight against Frank Shamrock. You have what it takes to be the world champion. He goes, I'm going to do you a favor. All you got to do is put Spanky's Triple X on the back of your shorts, which was his company, and I'll sponsor you. I'll pay for your apartment. I'll pay for your food. I'll pay for your cell phone. And,
wow.
And I want you to become a world champion. I was like, excuse me, you're really going to do that for me? He goes, yeah. He goes, I believe in you, man. You got a good heart. You're a good guy. It shows that you work hard. I think this job is just getting in your way. I think you need to focus on training, get your rest and just train as hard as possible. I was thankful. It was like an angel that sent me a blessing, man. I was very, very thankful because all of a sudden I became a full-time fighter. My next fight was against Vanderlei Silva, and that was for the vacant world title. And I beat Vanderlei Silva in a 5-round decision and became the first
light heavyweight
middleweight world champion at the time. Before light heavyweight was even about. Became the first middleweight world champion for UFC.
Oh, it wasn't light heavyweight back then? I thought it was light heavyweight.
No, it wasn't light heavyweight until my second title defense. My second title defense, that was when UFC was bought by Zuffa. And they asked me, I was the champion at the time, Tito, what would be the perfect weight for you? Because we didn't add a new weight class to make it middleweight. And we got to make a light heavyweight class. I go, well, if you make a light heavyweight 205, that'd be perfect for me because I'm cutting from 215 already.
Yeah.
To make 199 pounds, and I was killing myself. I go, you make it 205, it's only a 10-pound cut for me. It's easy. And they did it for me. They made 205 pounds because I asked them to, and I was thankful.
Damn, man. And then you defended that title for like 5 times? I think it was 4 or 5 times that you defended. Yeah.
5 times over a 4-year span. I was the longest reigning light heavyweight champion until Johnny Bones Jones beat me. Yeah. But, Johnny Bones Jones is one of the best in the world, man. And he has these God-given talent, man. That guy is amazing.
Yeah. You can't teach that. I mean, you guys have it. You guys are fighters, man. You guys are natural born fighters. That's what's up. So I know that you to close this chapter of your parents as well. I know that I guess it was last year or a couple of years ago. I think it was before the fight with this third fight with Chuck Liddell. You actually had some closure with your dad. Am I right?
Yeah. So I always kind of lived with that. Over the last 20 years, I lived with it. I never had any time to talk to my dad that much at all.
Did that feeling come? Did that feeling come and visit you every once in a while?
Back. It seems like that feeling always comes back. It seems like every time my fight comes around, when I'm really focused and I have dreams and nightmares of as a kid asking my dad why he did what he did, why he put me through it, and it was time for me to kind of say, you know what, I need to go talk to him. And it took a lot of balls to do it. It was hard. It was really hard. But I understood it because, being a father myself of 3 boys, it's not easy being a parent. When you bring a kid into this world or children into this world, it's difficult. It's hard. It's challenging. And it takes a lot of sacrifice. But these kids weren't asked to be brought into this earth. It was my decision. And I come to realize how hard it truly was that I had to go and tell my dad that, I forgive him. And it wasn't his fault. He didn't know how to parent. It wasn't his fault. He didn't know how to be a father because he only knew as good as he was taught, only as good as he was able to learn. And I learned so much through my life, through my childhood, and through my adulthood that I learned to forgive. And I went to his home last year. It was right before the Chuck Liddell fight, right before Thanksgiving. And I went to his home and I sat in front of his house in my car for about a good 20 to 30 minutes to kind of gather up the will just to go up to his house and knock on the door. And I finally said, you know what, it's time to do this. I got in my car and I walked to the house and knocked on the door. And he said, come in. I came in. He's like, wow, Tito, I thought you forgot about me. I was like, no, Dad, I had to learn. I had to kind of see what you went through and see how hard it is to be a parent. I understand now. I get it. And, I went through the same thing with my ex. With my boys, she had a bad drug problem, and I had to make the same decision my mom made, and it was hard. It was the hardest thing in the world. But when I made that decision, my life changed, my kids' future changed, my home changed, my training changed, my mentality, my mindset, everything changed because I didn't have the negativity around me. I didn't have the addiction around me, it was just a different world for me. And when I went to my father, I told my dad, I go, I understand what you went through. I was strong enough to get away from it. And I understand, and I forgive you. I love you, Dad. And he goes, son, I'm proud of you. I love you too. And that was the first time I heard my father say he loved me in over 25 years. And it felt good. It felt really, really good. And, but I got to give all the credit in the world is to my mom to making that decision to leaving my father when I was 13. I mean, she was with my father for over 15 years and she loved him like no other, but I was more important than her love to him. And that just shows how unselfish she truly was. And I'm thankful because, like I said, if it wasn't for my mom, I would be sitting here in front of you right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes we think we're strong, we think we're tough, but then we're like, no, she's tough. I mean, the toughness that she had to go and endure and to take you away in that case, I mean, that must have been a hard struggle. So on a more positive note, I know you have 3 kids, a couple of twins, and you said that 2 of them want to be fighters and 1 wants to be a manager. Jesse wants to be a manager, right? I mean,
Jesse wants to be the manager. He's a skinnier, long one, but he's a little muscle-bound kid himself. But I think he's more the intellectual one who's smart and kind of thinks about ways around things. He's conniving, but he's
going to handle the money. He's going to handle the money.
Yeah, he's going to handle the money, and he says that too. So Journey, he's more the brawn. He's the bruiser, and he loves it. He's very competitive in everything he does. I mean, it's just the emotions that run through this kid he's just full of testosterone. I mean, he's 10 years old and he got hair under his arms. He smells like a little European kid. It's the funniest thing in the world. But he's tough. I mean, he's 90 pounds and he's 10 years old and he's thick.
Wow.
I see where the Portuguese comes from because he's just a thick kid, all muscle. But my oldest son, Jacob, who wrestles in Arizona right now, he's a tough kid too, but I think he wants to go into business. He kind of realized that fighting is really, really tough. But I think Journey's going to be the fighter. I think he really wants to do it. But I'm going to put him in football a little bit. They're in jiu-jitsu right now. They have their gray belts in jiu-jitsu. They wrestle for the first 5 years from 5 until from 4 to about 9 they wrestled. And then I got to put them in jiu-jitsu at 9. And they're 10. They'll be 11 in June. But they love it, man. They really like the competitive side of it. But, I got to give a lot of credit and thanks to my girlfriend, Amber Nicole Miller,
your girlfriend,
who helps me.
Yeah,
she does an amazing job, for a woman who didn't birth 2 children herself, but takes care of them like her own. Not many women are like that. Not many women are unselfish like that and willing to sacrifice everything for her kids. And I say her kids now because that's the way she treats them. She treats them like her own. And I'm very thankful because she treats me with respect. She is an amazing woman. I could talk about her forever just because of the things that she does for me. And the way I love her and the way she loves me, it's I'm very fortunate. I'm very, very fortunate. And the way she loves my children, they're very fortunate. And they don't miss a mother figure at all because she's there 24/7. She's willing to drop everything in her life to help support my children the way I do.
Man, it's amazing how things go full circle. And what you said earlier, that they had full-on support when you said that you still wanted to fight. I mean, I don't know a lot of people that would go and say, oh, okay, it's okay. Yeah, you're 44. Let's go have 10 more fights. I mean, it's got to be tough, right? It's got to be tough. So people are starting to worry. You have all these problems with fighters and football players and the concussions and whatnot, and people get really worried about that. But you at 44, you look like you're 20. So I guess you still got a good way to go,
I've
man.
had a great surgeon. My surgeries I've gone through. I have ACL replacement on my left knee, ACL replacement on my right knee. I've had L4-5 S1 fuse in my lower back. I've had T3, T2, T2, T1, T1, C7 disc replacement. I've had C6, C7 fuse. I've had C6, C5 fuse.
Wow,
man. C5, C4 replacement, and I had a reattached retina to my left eye. But it was just a great surgeon. Technology nowadays is amazing. They pretty much can rehabilitate anything, but it comes to the hard work. I'm very disciplined. I take care of myself. Like I said, when it comes to after my surgeries, I've always did the physical therapy, and I did it to the highest level that I could. I eat clean, and I take care of my body. And as far as getting concussions or so forth, I maybe had probably about anywhere from 10 to 15 through my career, but I've been able to recover from them by taking care of myself, by doing the hyperbaric chamber or doing the CVAC altitude simulation machine, because that actually helps with the brain and the cognitive skills that you lose from having concussions. So I've been able to kind of rewire my brain all over again. But at the same time, it's just the hard work I try to put into it. And I'm very, very lucky. There is going to be an end game of my mixed martial art career, but right now I want to take advantage of it, for another year and, see what happens after that. Business is a big business and game that I want to get into. And I've been in for the last, 22 years since I've been fighting. It's always been a business to me, and that's why I've understood it.
Yeah, I won't take you much longer because I know you got some good solid rest to do today. But I just wanted to ask you something. Of all the fighters that I've seen, you're like one of the best well-spoken fighters. I mean, did you work on your communication skills? I mean, was it your entrepreneurial side that really got that communication out of you? Because whenever you speak, I mean, people really listen. You have there's something about your voice. There's something about the way you talk. There's something about how cool and calm and composed you are. And a lot of the other fighters, I don't get that from them, even though they're obviously great fighters. Did you work on that?
Well, I think a lot of it. I mean, I make mistakes all the time. I mean, there's interviews. I mean, people can attack me as much as possible with the mistakes I make in my interviews, and that's just being nervous. That's not being confident in myself. But as I get confident, I'm able to speak very well, very well spoken. But, at the same time, it's just when it comes from the heart, that's when it really can be respected. That's when it means the most, because people know that it's coming from the heart. I'm not trying to tell a lie and try to fabricate something that's not true. I'm telling you something that comes from my heart, from things that I've learned through my life, that it's hard. This life that we live in, it's hard every day. It's challenging every day to get through day in and day out. I got to take it day by day. I got to take it week by week, month by month, year by year, and just take it and try to get as much as I possibly can out of what I have each day. And, being an inspiration is the most important thing in the world to me. I mean, I don't want to be a role model because I don't want anybody to model my life at all, because I've made mistakes and I've learned from the mistakes. I never make a mistake twice, but I want people to be inspired by the things that I've done in a positive manner. And on the speaking side of it, when I was in college, I took speech classes, and I didn't realize that I was going to use it in fighting, because I didn't know I was going to be a fighter at the time. At the time, I just did it for my college degree, and I'm thankful I did it, because all of a sudden I caught myself talking in front of 15,000 fans in an arena, or millions watching on pay-per-view. And, I always said from my heart, whenever I speak from my heart, I think it touches people's hearts, and they understand the hard work that I put into the sport of mixed martial arts. And I have been now for 22 years. And, it's important to learn from your mistakes, but at the same time, it's important willing to fail and willing to get up and willing to brush yourself off and saying, I could do it again. And I think that's what makes me, I don't want to say different than anybody else, because I'm not different than anybody else. I'm just a hard worker, but it makes me want to fail. It makes me want to win my goal. And then when I win my goal is to set another goal. And once I win that goal, to set another goal. And each and every year, and I think that's why I still compete and I still fight, is I'm always trying to look for something bigger and better. I'm always trying to look for something to satisfy me. And I don't think I'll ever find that, because it keeps me young. It keeps me driven. It keeps me working every day harder and harder and harder. As a kid, living in motels or living in people's garages or, other people's homes, to now living on the water. I have a 38-foot fountain boat behind my house. I have a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a Porsche Panamera. And those things are just money, but at the same time, those have been my dreams. Those are things that I've always wanted as a kid. And those things fulfill me and make me feel happy, because I know what hard work pays off, and all this stuff could be taken away within a blink of an eye, but that's what makes me work hard. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I always have this nightmare that I go back to my house and there's nothing in there. There's no furniture. There's newspapers on the ground. It's all old and dungy, and it's just like I'm broke. And that's my worst fear, is to be broke. And I think having that nightmare keeps me humble. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me dedicated to my job. And whenever that comes about, it makes me want to work harder each and every day. I want to make the best of my life now. And I'm very thankful. I'm very lucky to live here in America. And I count my blessings every day. I'm thankful for our troops who fight for our country. I'm thankful for our president who fights for our country. And I'm thankful for, my family. I'm thankful for Amber being my support, my backbone, and my kids who support me. And number one, my fans, it wasn't for my fans, I would just be another fighter. And I give my heart and soul every time I compete in the cage. And over 22 years, I do it each and every time. And when I leave this earth, I want to make sure that I leave a legacy behind for my children. It's not about a legacy of my name, but a legacy of my children, of their father was a hard worker. And that's who I truly am.
Man, Tito, I can't thank you enough. I mean, if there's one thing that I feel from you, not only here having this a little closer talk with you, but also from your even social media, I feel you care not only about obviously your family, your immediate family, but your fans as well. So I can't thank you enough for this little piece of heaven that we had right here. And if you want to leave some message, I mean, you left a lot of messages already, but if you want to leave a quick message for all your fans, and especially Portuguese and Brazilian fans.
Yeah, this life we live in is very tough. It's hard. Every day is hard, and I can't imagine people in other countries the way they live. And I'm very fortunate to live here in America, and I'm very thankful. I've traveled to Brazil. I've traveled to almost everywhere around the world. Thailand, England, Australia. I've been everywhere around the world, and I'm lucky to be living here in America. But people understand it. If you live your life clean, you live your life healthy, you live your life with respect, and never try to step on anybody to get ahead. Always be willing to help people as you come up in life. God will repay you, and I think it's just karma, just giving back and being a good person. And at night, when you go to bed, you look in the mirror and you brush your teeth, you could be honest with yourself, knowing that you helped somebody, knowing that you helped yourself by helping someone else. And that's why I live my life transparent. That's why I live my life. I give it to social media. I give it to my Instagram. Of course, Tito Ortiz, 1999 on Instagram. I show people, how I, scold my kids, how I train, how I live my life. I want to be a book because I really, I'm lucky to be sitting in front of you right now. I'm very, very lucky, because I had three choices in life. I either could have been in prison, dead, or where I am right now. And I think I made some good decisions, so all your listeners or your viewers, and all my fans and viewers, thank you so much for your support. It drives me each and every day. I feel young. I feel revigorated. My career has been reborn, I think, just because of the way I live my life now. I'm very, very thankful to be where I am today. And I'm just trying to live it as good as I possibly can, as truly as I possibly can. I'm not really a religious person, but I believe in treating people the way you want to be treated, and with respect and values. And that's how I hold my name more than anything. I'll have two things for the rest of my life: my name and my word. And I try not to tarnish my name, and I always try to keep my word no matter what.
Sir, thank you so much for the inspiration, and go kick some ass on Saturday.
Yes, Saturday, live on pay-per-view. Guys, got to check it out. I'm going to beat down Alberto Del Rio. I don't think he's ready for me. But I don't think so.
I don't think so as well.
Hope you guys enjoy it. I appreciate it. Thank you
Man,
very
I loved
much.
it. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Obrigado.
De nada, obrigado. See you, Tito. Thanks.
Peace.
See.
Instructors, chief instructors that's been with me about 37 years.
Wow.
So if I need to leave, I have assistant instructors that could, step in and teach for me. And also I have my wife who will, take care of the studio for me so that everything runs smoothly.